Hello, it's me, Adam, from Middle Age Gaming 2020, or rather just Middle Age Gaming now that it's not 2020 anymore. Now it's 2021. And I am here today to talk to you about a game called Devotion. Now, Devotion is a game created by Red Candle, and it was originally listed on Steam, but then was delisted after it was found to have a certain asset that insulted the Chinese president. This is where it is. Ta-da! It was later announced on Red Candle's Twitter that they would be releasing the game on GOG, or Good Old Games. However, later, basically the next day, Good Old Games came out and said, you know what, we are not going to be releasing this game due to player feedback telling us that they don't want this game, so we're just not going to release it. So unfortunately, it is kind of hard to find the game right now. If you can't find a copy, don't worry. I do have the full game up on YouTube. You can watch the entire gameplay of it there, or if you are patient enough, maybe you will be rewarded and then you will be able to find a copy eventually. So let's give you a little bit of background on this game before we start. This game takes place in the 1980s in Taiwan, and that is what is known as the White Terror era. Now, that actually doesn't really have too much of an impact on the game. There were some civil problems at that time. People were dissatisfied with the government. They were having problems with democracy and whatnot. But basically, that doesn't have anything to do with this story, so don't worry about that. Basically, what's happening is you are playing the role of Du Fengyu, and he is a screenwriter who in the past has been quite successful. However, in recent times, he's kind of fallen on hard times. His creativity is kind of going down in the dumps, and he hasn't been really producing too much. Now, he's married to a woman, Gong Li Fang, and Gong Li Fang was a former actress and kind of a model, so she was very, very popular in her time. However, when she got married, she retired from the acting industry and decided that she was going to be a mother and a housewife and take care of her family. They also have a young daughter, Du Meixin. Now, throughout the game, you will be seeing Gong Li Fang and Du Meixin. However, they will be the ghosts of this game. So how that came to be and why are they in this state? Well, that's part of the mystery, and I'll try not to get into too many spoilers to ruin that for you. So, let's go ahead and get started with our first thing you should know before you play Devotion. That's right, it is a local game, and what I mean by that is basically what a lot of my Taiwanese friends use to describe a lot of things around here. Basically what it means is that it is very steeped in Taiwanese culture and motifs and that sort of thing. So if you're the kind of person who is familiar with Taiwan, you're really going to get a lot out of it if you've visited or something like that, if you're Taiwanese especially. But if you're somebody who does not have a background where you're familiar with Taiwan, you might miss out on a few of the subtle little things, but it's not going to ruin your gameplay at all. But some of the things that you might notice if you are Taiwanese or have spent some time here are things like the architecture. This actually looks remarkably similar to my in-laws' apartment. The fish. They're said to bring luck and prosperity. You see these scales here? They're supposed to look like coins. A bit of the language. And even the doorbell. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, that sound is the sound of a gecko. Okay, that's the chirping of a gecko, the lizard. However, in Taiwan, it's very common for the sound of a gecko to be used as a doorbell. So if you didn't know any better, you might not know where that sound's coming from, but it is in fact coming from the door. So just to give you an idea, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to be seeing in this game. It's really going to lock it in. It might not seem like a big deal, but it really, really brings in that whole kind of Taiwanese vibe. And especially the language is used there. If you heard the little grandmother going, oh, paise, paise. That's basically Taiwanese Hokkien. So it does have a bit of the local language as opposed to Mandarin Chinese. But one of the other big aspects of this game is religion. And that's going to bring me to my second point. Particularly for the second half of the game, religion is actually a really big aspect of it. And in Feng Yu's case, it is quite literally
the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Now, while I was playing, I was having some trouble trying to figure out if this was mostly Buddhism or Taoism that was being depicted in the game. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all is because in Taiwan, Taoism and Buddhism each make up about 1/3 of the population, with the remaining third being other religions or non-practitioners of religion. So that was one reason why I wasn't quite sure which one it really was going to be. There's also the case that it was actually depicting motifs or symbolism that were common in each. ultimately, it's Feng Yu's devotion to Tsugu Guanyin that's at the core of this game. Now, Tsugu Guanyin is based off of Guanyin, which is one of the Chinese Bodhisattvas. Normally, in Chinese Buddhism, she's depicted like this. However, in the game, she's depicted like this. So you can see that there are some pretty significant differences. However, as if you travel around Asia or even visit different temples, you'll see that actually depictions of the Bodhisattvas can be quite different. There are depictions of Guanyin that have multiple arms. There are depictions that only have two. There are depictions where she is with children or without. There are depictions where she's holding a water bottle or not. And there are even depictions of Guanyin as a man. So the fact that the game changed it up a bit is really not all that odd. The reason they probably did it is because they don't want to offend any specific temple or group, so they decided to create a fictional depiction of this goddess. However, there are very, very similar depictions of Guanyin that are actually worshipped. So some of the things that you're seeing here thematically are going to be very, very true or very, very relevant or noticeable to Taiwanese individuals because this is something that they are going to be seeing in their lives. And I thought that that was very, very interesting because I know in the West, a lot of times, Buddhism is depicted very, very differently than the way that it is lived here in the East. I've had friends in the States that'll tell me, Buddhism isn't a religion, it's a philosophy. And you could say that, but similarly, you could say that somebody who is practicing forgiveness and charity and love for thy fellow man is living a Christian lifestyle, whether or not they're a Christian. So yes, there are Buddhist philosophies, but Buddhism itself is very much a religion. The Bodhisattvas are very personal to these people. They worship them. To them, they very much are gods. And so I thought that seeing that side of Buddhism was actually very, very, very interesting. And it can obviously bring good things like community and a sense of morality and that sort of thing, but it can also cause complications.
还有那个什么供养观音的功德金，每个月一包一包在给，你有没有连菜钱都给他算了？
你莫名其妙，搞清楚，要是他的保佑，今天美食的病会好吗？你给我闭嘴！
好啊，钱都给观音好了。
And in this game, it does lead to some kind of creepy imagery. And that brings me to my next point. Yes, this game is sold as a horror game, but I wouldn't really describe it as such. If anything, I would probably say it's more of a spooky walking simulator. The first time I played through it, or the first play time that I had, there were some moments where I kind of jumped a bit. Okay, so we... Whoa. Oh. Oh my god, I just jumped there. And there's definitely some creepy aesthetics. Well, Mom's not happy. But overall, I wouldn't really say that this is a true horror game in the sense that you're not being constantly chased by ghosts, with the exception of one scene. Ah, snap! But beyond that, most of it's just kind of creepy imagery. There are some jump scares, but most of it's kind of you turn around and there's something that you weren't really expecting. Whoa. Things don't really jump out at you quite often. However, it does kind of have a very foreboding atmosphere. So these aren't really ghosts in the traditional dead type. This is more about the inner feelings of a person and kind of the inner struggles that they've had with guilt and that sort of thing. So in that sense, it is very haunting, but I wouldn't really call it a horror game per se. And on that note, it does bring me to one more thing. The puzzles in this game really aren't all that difficult. Most of them are actually pretty easy as long as you're paying attention to some of the clues. For example, you're going to pick up a lot of things, and a lot of times as long as you're reading the stuff that you're picking up, you're actually going to be able to figure out much of what you're supposed to be doing. They hang the painting on the empty wall. Set his medals on the cabinet. Ah, okay, so this is where I need to hang. Okay. So this is where I hang the photos. So, I'm guessing I'm supposed to do all that now. So, hang the medal on a shelf. So because of that, it's not actually all that difficult, and the puzzles that you basically have to figure out on your own are actually not going to be all that challenging on their own. Okay, this makes a lot more sense. Okay, so this one goes here. This one goes here. There we go. So it's really not that bad, and it's actually pretty quick. So if you're comparing it to a game like, say, Myst or The Seventh Guest, which are other walking simulators where you have to figure out certain things, it's actually not going to be that difficult, and it's going to be way easier to the game that I compared it to, PT. And again, like PT, there is one more thing that you need to keep in mind. This game actually is quite short. It's not long at all. I finished it in about 2 hours and 45 minutes, give or take, a little less than 3 hours. So there's not a lot there, but there's a lot in it. And it covers a lot of topics, such as religion and family dynamics and the pressure parents put on their children and the pressure children have to succeed and give their parents, what they want and that sort of thing. So there's a lot in it. It's actually a very rich story to it. And it's got a lot of really cute elements in it and stuff like that too. I mean, there's one section where you're actually looking at a children's book. Check it out. There's an apple over there. Wait, go get it. Oh, poor bear. So that's going to give you kind of an idea of some of the relationship between the father and the daughter. So it does a lot of character building here, even though you don't actually have a lot of dialogue and there's no dialogue options or anything like that. So there's quite a bit in there. Now, when it was originally listed on Steam, it was listed at $16.99 US, which is a little bit less than about twice of what a movie ticket would cost you. So because of that, I would say it's definitely worth it, because since it is interactive, you're probably going to have a little bit more fun than you would just passively sitting there with a movie. And I would definitely recommend it, especially if it ever gets relisted. And if it is on sale, I would say, go ahead and grab it, because I had a lot of fun with it and I thought it was great. So let us know what you think. Do you think that this is a game for you? Do you think you want to skip it? If you do think that you'd want to skip it and maybe you don't like scary elements or something like that, let us know and we'll do a TDLP, Too Long Didn't Play, and I'll kind of walk you through the story and give you an idea of what's going on there. So that'll be full of spoilers. But let me know what you think, and hopefully you enjoyed this. And if you have a chance, give Devotion a try. So see you again soon.